Hey everyone, welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving straight into a brilliant culinary concept. If you've been on the hunt for a beverage that's ridiculously delicious, packed with nutrition, and best of all, saves you a ton of time, well, you're in exactly the right place. We're going to break down the ultimate instant energy milk premix. We'll look at the precise science of making it, the exact measurements, and how doing just a little bit of work up front can totally transform your daily routine. So let's jump right in. Let me ask you guys a quick question. Do you want a rich, healthy, ultra-creamy drink that literally takes seconds to whip up, whether it's the freezing dead of winter or the absolute peak of summer? I mean, think about the usual hassle for a sec. Making a really flavorful, nutrient-dense milk drink from scratch usually means dragging out multiple heavy jars, meticulously chopping up nuts, grinding down spices, and then dealing with a mountain of dishes afterwards. It takes a lot of time, right? And because of that, we hardly ever do it on a busy weekday. But what if you could front-load all of that effort? Well, that's exactly what we're exploring today. It's a magical, super versatile premix that turns a messy chore into a 10-second breeze. Think of this instant energy formula as your new culinary secret weapon for a chaotic, modern lifestyle. And it's not just about saving time, it's about getting this unparalleled sensory experience. We're talking about a velvety, thick texture that's absolutely loaded with dry fruits, giving you this incredible aroma and a beautiful, natural color every single time you pour a glass. By mixing this up in advance, you're basically locking all those luxurious flavors into one single, ready-to-go jar. It's the perfect sweet spot between ultimate convenience and premium taste, ready to give you a quick, nutritious boost whenever you need it. Okay, let's dive into this blueprint. Now, listen closely because precision is the absolute secret sauce here. You really want to stick to the exact gram weights. No guessing, just measure. For our base, we're looking at 1 cup of sugar, which hits the scale at exactly 225 grams. Then we bring in the heavy hitters, our nuts. You'll need a 1/4 cup of almonds, that's 30 grams, a 1/4 cup of cashews, also 30 grams, and 2 tablespoons of pistachios weighing in at exactly 20 grams. To get that gorgeous aroma, you're going to toss in 10 to 11 small cardamom pods and about 25 to 30 delicate strands of saffron. Finally, the kicker, a 1/4 cup of custard powder, precisely 30 grams. Sticking strictly to these numbers is what guarantees that perfect, magical balance of sweetness, starch, and richness. So, how does this actually all come together? Well, it's a wonderfully simple 3-step process. First off, you just toss your measured sugar, nuts, and spices straight into your blender. Grind them up until they're completely fine. You know, that ultra-fine powder that always puffs up into a tiny, delicious-smelling dust cloud when you take the lid off? Exactly like that. Once everything is powdered, you drop in those 30 grams of custard powder and give the blender one more quick spin so it's perfectly and evenly mixed. And then finally, and please don't skip this, sieve the entire mixture through a standard kitchen strainer. Now, what's really interesting about this next part is why that sieving step is so absolutely vital. I know you might be tempted to just skip it to save a minute or two of cleanup, right? But since we threw in whole cardamom pods right at the start, the sieve is going to catch all those tough, coarse skins, plus any stubborn little pieces of nuts that somehow dodge the blender blades. By getting rid of those fibrous bits, you create this unbelievably smooth, silky texture for the final drink. And that means it's super accessible and safe for everyone in the family, from young toddlers to elders who might otherwise have a hard time with coarse, scratchy fragments. All right, so you've sieved your mixture and you've got it locked up in an airtight jar. Here is the massive return on that tiny time investment. 25 to 30. That is the sheer number of rich, delicious glasses of custard milk you're going to get out of just this one single batch of premix. I mean, it's honestly kind of mind-blowing. With maybe 5 minutes of prep work with a blender and a strainer, you've essentially secured weeks' worth of premium instant beverages. They are just sitting right there in your pantry, ready to go the exact second a craving hits. So how do we actually brew a batch when we want a glass? Let's break down the mechanics here. First, get 1 liter of milk boiling in a pan. While that's heating up, take about a cup of cold or room temperature milk and dissolve 6 to 7 tablespoons of our premix right into it. You want to mix it until it forms a really smooth slurry. Now, pay attention, because here is the absolute most crucial technique. Once your liter of milk on the stove comes to a rolling boil, turn the heat off. Seriously, do not skip this. With the heat completely off, pour your premix slurry into the hot pan and give it a really good stir. Dropping the temperature just a bit before you introduce the starch is the secret trick to guaranteeing a perfect, silky, clump-free consistency. Okay, so once your slurry is perfectly mixed in, without a single lump in sight, you're going to turn that flame back on high until the milk comes to a boil again. The second you see it bubbling, drop the heat down low. From here, you just simmer and stir continuously for about 3 to 4 minutes. You really have to keep that liquid moving, otherwise the heavy ground nuts and the rich custard are going to sink right to the bottom, stick to the pan, and burn. And as you stir, you'll literally watch the milk thicken up beautifully right before your eyes. And hey, keep in mind, because of the starches, it's actually going to thicken up even more as it cools down. Now, we used 6 to 7 tablespoons of the premix for our 1 liter of milk. That is the absolute perfect baseline sweetness. But you know what the brilliant thing is about having this jar sitting in your kitchen? It is remarkably customizable. Want it sweeter? Super easy. Just toss a few extra tablespoons of the premix into your cold milk slurry next time. Prefer less sugar? Simple. Just reduce the amount of premix you use for the batch. You are in complete control of the flavor profile, so you can tailor it perfectly for whoever happens to be drinking it that day. And this brilliantly illustrates just how incredibly versatile this drink really is. I mean, it's a true year-round companion. If you're freezing in the dead of winter, you can serve this piping hot, straight off the stove and into a mug. It gives you this deeply comforting, soothing warmth. But what if you're hosting a summer get-together? Just let the brewed milk cool to room temperature, then pop it in the fridge until it is totally chilled. Serve it ice cold, and it completely transforms into the ultimate, thick, refreshing summer cooler that your guests will absolutely go crazy for. But wait, before you hand that glass over, you want to make sure it looks just as incredible as it tastes, right? The visual and sensory appeal is a huge part of the whole experience. So top it off with a sprinkle of finely chopped pistachios and almonds. Because the milk is so beautifully thick from the custard powder, those heavy nuts will actually float right on the surface. And finally, gently place a few delicate strands of saffron right on top. This doesn't just add a stunning pop of color against that creamy base, it hits your nose with this luxurious earthy aroma right before you take that very first sip. So the crucial point is captured perfectly in this quote, straight from our culinary source. Take all things by measure so the results will be better and the milk will be tastier. Honestly, this is the golden rule of our entire explainer today. The success of this premix relies entirely on that precise ratio of sugar to nuts to starch. Seriously, don't just eyeball it. If you respect those exact gram weights and measurements we went over at the start, you are guaranteed the absolute best results every single time you mix up a batch. Well, we've covered the exact formula, the foolproof prep steps, and that precise clump-free brewing method. Now that you have this incredibly efficient, time-saving tool in your culinary arsenal, it really begs a much bigger question, doesn't it? If you can use exact measurements to turn a complex, multi-step beverage into a simple 10-second prep, what other daily kitchen chores could you completely front-load? Just think about how much time you could save. Thanks so much for hanging out with me for this explainer, and I really hope you enjoy your incredibly delicious instant energy drink.